Hello, 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 sellers. Come on in. Come on in. I'm Kathy, and I love to be selling. And today we're going to talk about every seller's favorite tip, whether you're a new seller or a more experienced seller, which is how to sell on eBay, and not just sell on eBay, but how to sell on eBay and make more money, right? And there's a lot of things involved in that. And I'm going to share some tips, things that people don't always talk about as far as making money selling on eBay. Okay, so you excited about this? Let me know. So, how to sell on eBay and make more money. So, in order to do this, I have to keep an eye on what are my costs for selling on eBay. And what I'll see, oftentimes sellers are focusing on if there's any listing fees, if you go over your monthly allotment, whether you're selling without a store or with a store, definitely focusing on final value fees, definitely taking a look at promoted listing fees if you're doing promoted listings. But they forget about all the other parts of eBay selling, which can really eat away at your profits and that you want to keep an eye on in order to sell on eBay and make more money. And one that I do not hear people talk a lot about is storing your inventory. Like how do I store my inventory? What do I do to store my inventory? Again, people talk about the fees, they talk about the shipping, they talk about promoted listings, but there's fees involved and costs involved in storing the inventory that you have. So let's talk about that, because if you can save money storing your inventory, all the ways you do to do that, you're going to be making more money as a seller. And again, this can change as you grow your business and you're listing more and more things, having more and more inventory. And it's also true for sellers on other platforms. So if you're selling on Poshmark or Mercari, how you store, the cost of your storage, the cost of hanging on to your inventory is part of your selling costs. It's not just the cost of your inventory, which obviously is part of it. And it is not just the fees that you're paying, but the costs that you pay that are involved in selling your inventory can really eat away at profit. So here's some ideas for you. So here in New York City, I've got my stars and stripes on. It's July 4th weekend coming up, as I'm sure it is everywhere, right? This year, July 4th is falling on a Tuesday. But I wanted to give you a heads up on this. So when you go into a holiday period, and this is true for Labor Day, this is true for July 4th, Memorial Day, but it can also happen Columbus Day, particularly if you're in a city in an urban area. It's a big moving time. There's a lot of moving going on. So people moving into new homes, out of homes. There's a lot of relocation going on. Here in New York City, walking around, I just see a lot of moving trucks. And when I see a lot of moving trucks, I know that means people are moving in and out. And when people are moving in and out, and this is true in all neighborhoods, all parts of the United States, but also around the world, many times when people are moving, they're going to be discarding things. Now, different localities have different rules and regulations about discarding things. And you might think, well, Kathy, I mean, what does this have to do with me as an eBay seller? You need to store your inventory, and it's going to depend what you're selling, depends how you're storing it. It also depends what your physical layout looks like. So for instance, for me, the room that I store everything in is a boxy square room. I've got 2 closets that clothes go into. So what my higher end clothing, so things like party dresses, party gowns, but also more expensive men's clothes, is hung. So I need a lot of hangers. I probably have well over 100 clothing hangers being used. And clothing hangers add up. So I mean, definitely you can go online, you can purchase clothing hangers. The other thing is oftentimes when people move, they discard clothing hangers. And in fact, I just scored like 40, 50 clothing hangers. I'm just going to grab some. So one of my neighbors just recently moved, and so in New York City, typically when people are discarding clothing hangers, they put them in large shopping bags, right? So you can see right away what they are, so that you can grab them, right? They're at the curb, they're in the garbage area, so you know the person's discarding them. But this is a great way, because if you're going to go and buy 40, 50 clothing hangers, that's something I don't need to purchase. I can look out for when people move, and I can get free clothing hangers. These are all nice and clean and great, and they're going to get put right to use. The other thing I've noticed people discarding when they're moving, get this, Sharpies. I've seen packages of office supplies. This is also true if a business is going out of business or if a business is moving. Oftentimes, it's not worth it to them to pack various odds and ends. And again, they will discard them. I've picked up Sharpies. I've picked up another one. So Sharpies, and I use these. So oftentimes when I'm storing things, they'll be wrapped in a bag. And then on the outside of the bag, I have a label, or I use a Post-it. And on it with the Sharpie, I'll put what the item is. And if I have an internal SKU, I'll put the SKU number on. But I always grab Sharpies when I see them. The other thing is plastic storage bins. Again, even if you're not a plastic person, I'm saving this from the landfill. Somebody has discarded this. And you can look at it. I mean, if it's something where it's like, you know, it's not in the greatest condition, you might keep walking by it. But a lot of times you'll see nice, clean containers, boxes that you can use for storing your inventory. And again, if I buy this, right, it's going to cost $4, $5. It could cost more depending on the size of the container. And again, when you see people discard them because they're moving, again, you are saving this from the landfill and you are putting it to good use. So something like this, you're storing jewelry, you're storing shoes. You could be storing clothing in here, like I could be putting socks in here, bras in here. If you're reselling lingerie, slips. I mean, a lot of things fit into containers this size. And again, depending on your storage system, is you can be marking a SKU on here. Again, you can use Post-its, you can use labels to put that in. Also, scrap pieces of paper and then just tape it right on. So again, look out for containers. Look out for hangers. Rolling clothing racks. I've seen them discarded. I've seen mannequins discarded. All kinds of things. So when you're out and you see, moving, you see people discarding, yes, you definitely want to keep an eye out for some nice clean inventory that might be getting discarded too. And speaking of which, I got some nice dresses, all clean and nice. Again, the person who was discarding it was in a shopping bag. So you could see it was nice and clean. There wasn't any food in there. There wasn't any coffee grounds. They just decided they didn't want to take the items with them. And that's what I wanted to point out to you as a seller, particularly if you are growing your business. And people will come to me for tips on that. Is, Kathy, I want to grow my business. So we work on sourcing, we work on inventory, we work on price margins. But part of growing your business is also going to be growing your storage. And that can cost money because of hangers, boxes, labels, Sharpies. So when people are moving, keep an eye out for that. I have a rolling rack to the right where I store mailers and tape and pens and pencils and all kinds of things in it. And I got it from somebody moving. Again, they had just discarded it on the side. It was nice and clean. I grabbed it. And if I remember correctly, when I went online to look for it, because I love this rolling rack, it was like $30, $40 was comparable online. So again, your storage boxes, whether they're cardboard or plastic. And remember, when they're plastic, you're saving them from the landfill. Paper goods that you can use, not only to write things on, like to use as labels, but also to be using paper. I always like to grab nice wrapping paper because you can crumple it and use it when you're shipping. So it's going to save you money in shipping supplies. And again, remember, you're saving it from the landfill. The other thing you'll see discarded, speaking of shipping supplies, is always my favorite, is the air pillows, which I love. Again, I'm saving this from the landfill, and they're light, so they're great for shipping. So when you're out and about, you're running your regular errands, whether by foot, here in New York City it's by foot, or whether you're in your car, you're on your way to the post office to drop your packages, you're on your way to a friend's, you're yard sailing. Don't forget to keep an eye out for discarded, not just free inventory, but things for storage. And if you've discovered great storage things, let me know about it. Because when you're saving that $10, $15, $20 on storage items, $30, $40, depending on what it is, things like mannequins can really be nice savings. Again, the Sharpies, the boxes, the containers, the rolling rack, shelves. That's one thing in New York I do come across a lot. Again, people are moving, and rather than take the shelving unit with them, they'll discard it. And you look at it, there's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly clean and nice. Do you have an area in your storage area where you're putting your eBay inventory that you could use another shelving unit? And most sellers will raise their hand on that. We can always use more shelving units. Don't forget to the bins, the narrower ones, is they can slide under beds. I actually have some boxes stored under a bed, so consider things like that, things that slide under bed raisers, because then you can slide a bigger box underneath your bed. But consider that is, yes, cost of inventory, and you can find some nice things discarded. Yes, your eBay fees. Yes, you might have listing fees because you're listing so much, you're going over your monthly allotment. Yes, your final value fees. Yes, your promoted listing fees. But don't forget the cost of storing items, all the hangers, all the boxes, all the labels, all the rolling racks can add up. And if you can find solutions, particularly when you first start selling, it may not like all match and look super great at the beginning, but especially at the beginning, you're really focused on discovering, do I like selling? Is this for me? Is this what I want? And then also when you're scaling, it's like, okay, Kathy, I'm going from this and I'm scaling, which means I'm buying more inventory, which means you're spending more money. Is if you can scale, if you can get hangers and boxes and containers as you're scaling, they cost you nothing. Or you're at a yard sale and it's like pennies. Like they'll say, just take all of that. It could be like tons of great containers, for a few bucks. It's worth it because you're scaling your business, which is going to be more expensive as you do that, until you start getting the income from the scaling the business. So anything you can do to keep those costs down. And the other thing is with getting them, it was a designer, this is really fascinating, a designer of boxes. So this woman in her business, they designed boxes for all kinds of shows that came through New York City. A lot of them that go through the Javits. Hey, Vicki. And she was closing her showroom and moving to a smaller space. And the showroom, if you know New York City, it was in the Chelsea district, which is in the 20s. They literally had almost half a floor, if you can imagine this, in this building. And it was all, and you're talking like floor to ceiling, windows. I mean, this was like a big space, all boxes and storage things and holiday decorations. And it was all kinds of things because they had gone to shows to show off their boxes and their containers. And big corporations use them for displays in stores, displays at shows. She gave away, she had to move. So I believe it was a lease, and like the lease had terminated and she wasn't going to renew the lease. She was moving to a smaller space and literally had a showroom, used to be drilling, a showroom full of all kinds of display boxes and holiday things that she needed gone in 7 days. And it was first come, first serve. And I was like, I went there with the Kia bags and just filled it and grabbed all kinds of things that just looked interesting and colorful and fun. Because it helped me, because it was free and they were gorgeous and they were nice, it helped me reimagine my storage space because all these wonderful storage things came in. And because it was slightly different, I literally rearranged my inventory, big chunk of my inventory, which made it easier for me to get my hands on it as I'm packing sales. So the reason I'm saying this is when you see things, and you're going, I'm not quite sure how I would use that. If it's clean and it's free, grab it. Because if you find you don't need it, you can always then pass it to another seller friend, put it out at a yard sale, in a free box, or just move it then to your local free cycle area. But sometimes you'll see things, you're like, I'm not quite sure how I would use it. When it's free, clean, nice, I always say grab it. And then if it's something you find that you're not going to use, like, no, that's not really what I need, then you just pass it along. But don't forget the cost of the storage things, because again, people will forget that. Again, you're scaling your inventory, you're new, and you don't just want things like in piles, like here's the pile of things I just listed. Is if you're putting it in your closet, you're going to need more hangers. Hangers cost money. If you're putting it into bins, how many bins do you already have in your home? Or perhaps you want bigger, squarer bins and not such small bins. So always keep an eye out on moving day, holidays. And again, July 4th is huge here in the city for people moving, but also Labor Day is a big moving time, Columbus Day. And it's because people are off from their jobs on the holiday. So for a lot of folks, they'll be moving at that time. So do keep an eye out for all of that, because again, eBay selling, listing fees, yes, final value fees, yes, but don't forget the cost of taking care of properly storing all the jewelry and the clothing and the home goods, the pet supplies, the kids' toys that you're selling. That is part of the cost of doing business, selling on eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, everywhere that you're selling. I've got great tips for you on selling all through the summer and keeping your sales nice and strong. And it's on my website, ilovetobeselling.com. For some people, sales can slow down in the summer. Not for me. They're like exploding. I'm so glad. And I've put my top tips to keep your sales exploding all summer long, and grab them. It's top 10 tips to ignite your eBay summer sales. You'll love it. So enjoy, 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 and keep your eye out not only for great inventory when people are moving, but storage. And again, things like the mannequins that can help you with photographing. Vicki, thanks so much for joining me live. Goodbye, everybody. I'm Kathy, and I love to be selling.